So, picture this. The government rolls out a brand new scientific mining project, and they're promising this clean, amazing future. I mean, it sounds great, right? Like real progress, a solution to a really toxic problem. But what if it's all just a show? A way to hide something much, much dirtier? That's what we're digging into today. Is this new project the real deal, or is it just a very clever smokescreen?
And really, it all boils down to this one single question. Can you actually clean an entire ocean of pollution with just one little drop of science? This sentence just perfectly nails the conflict here, and it's the question we're going to try to unpack.
Okay, so first up, let's talk about the official story. This is the promise that was made, the shiny, high-tech, clean solution that was supposed to change absolutely everything.
And boom, there it is. In 2025, with a whole lot of fanfare, the first ever scientific coal mining project got launched. This thing was hyped up as a massive step forward, the government's modern answer to a court order that had banned the older and frankly way more destructive ways of mining.
Right, but here's the thing. While all eyes were on this one shiny new project, there was this much bigger, much dirtier story just being ignored. So let's zoom out from the official promise and take a hard look at the staggering reality on the ground.
30,000 plus. That's the estimated number of old, dangerous, and yeah, often illegal rat hole mines. We're talking these narrow, hand-dug tunnels that are still scarring the landscape. And that's according to a court-appointed committee. Just let that number sink in for a second. Over 30,000.
So you might be wondering, what does that actually look like on the ground? 30,000 abandoned mines? Well, for starters, it means thousands of open pits, just left there, unsealed. It means widespread acid mine drainage, or AMD. And that's this toxic runoff that poisons rivers and just devastates entire ecosystems. And look, this isn't just speculation. These are the dangers that have been confirmed by the government's own committees.
So you see, we've got these two totally different narratives playing out. You have the official solution, and then you have this massive legacy problem. And when you put them side by side, the real scale of the issue becomes, well, incredibly clear.
So on one side of the scale, you've got one, just a single solitary pilot project for scientific mining.
And then, on the other side, you have over 30,000 of these old legacy mines. I mean, the contrast is just staggering, isn't it? 1 versus 30,000.
And this is where critics bring in this really powerful metaphor. They call it a tiny island of legality in a vast sea of illegal extraction. It just perfectly captures their whole argument, that this one legal project is basically a symbolic gesture, surrounded by this massive, unchanged reality of really damaging practices.
You know, when you see a disconnect like that, when the numbers just don't seem to add up, you got to ask, what's really going on here? And that brings us to this really key concept that might just explain everything, the art of greenwashing. And that's the million-dollar question, isn't it? This is exactly what critics are asking. If this isn't really about fixing the entire problem, then what is it about?
Greenwashing? You've probably heard the term. Basically, it's when an organization spends a whole lot more time and money looking green than on actually being green. It's all about perception, not necessarily reality.
And if you look at it through that lens, critics say this whole situation fits the greenwashing playbook to a T. First, you focus all the public's attention on your one small positive project. Then, you just ignore the massive negative reality that hasn't changed. Slap a trustworthy-sounding label like scientific on it to give it a veneer of legitimacy. And the ultimate goal? You get to claim you're following the court's orders, even while the real problem is just left to fester.
Okay, but is there any actual proof that the old destructive ways are still happening? Well, let's look at what's happening on the ground, especially after the sun goes down.
Here's a pretty simple but really powerful test, right? If things are genuinely getting better, you would expect to see that in the environment. So, has the water quality in the local rivers actually improved?
And the answer, according to the water quality reports, is a big fat no. The rivers are still acidic from all that mine drainage. The pH levels haven't budged. And that's the kicker, right? The environmental signature of the problem hasn't changed one bit.
And then there's this last piece of the puzzle, something the locals see all the time. It's a familiar sight. You've got these convoys of trucks rumbling down the roads in the middle of the night, loaded with coal, just like they always have.
And that just leaves us with this one giant, lingering question that really cuts through all the noise. It's the paradox at the very heart of this story. If this one scientific mine is really the future, if it's the model for a new, cleaner era, then why are trucks still hauling coal from the unscientific past night after night? It's a huge contradiction, and it kind of just hangs there, leaving you to wonder, what's really going on?